Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome once again to NECIC and our annual Candidates Night. This is a pretty big event this evening. Plenty of literature has been put out, and there's literature on your seats as well as a blank card. If you would like to write a question out for the candidates, we will ask that later on in the program. Without further ado, I believe we'll move right into the event this evening, and we will allow a couple of minutes for introductions to start out. I think we'll just start all the way on the left with Mr. Abrams. Well, thank you. You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So everybody knows I'm Ron Abrams, running for mayor. Been a resident of Mansfield for 18 years. It's my adopted home. I grew up in Marion, Ohio. Spent 40 years in public higher education. 20 years of that as a CEO or president of actually it was 3 different organizations over that 20-year period. So I understand what it's like to run large public entities, understand what it's like to build and balance budgets and operate within open records or public records and open meetings laws, and have a good track record in those arenas. Retired 2 years ago. When I retired, I knew I didn't want to do that business anymore, but that I wasn't done. And so here I am. I'm engaged. I'm very interested in becoming the next mayor of Mansfield and making sure that we all feel like our best days are before us and that they're attainable, and that Mansfield becomes a place where everybody feels safe, where they want to live, work, and raise their families, and retire. So, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Curtis, and I am a write-in candidate. All that means is that my name is not on the ballot. I filed after the May election, so you'll have to type in my name on write-in or get that paper ballot, lock it in that oval, and put in Gloria Curtis. I am a resident of Mansfield. I grew up here, graduated from Mayoral High School, and way back when, in 1976, I was Miss Black Mansfield. I grew up, left home, went off to college, and thought I wanted a nice law degree. So I went to undergrad school, got a degree in political science, and fell in love and got married. And the rest is history. Raised 4 children, and all the kids are grown. They've got their master's degrees, and they live out of state. 2 live out of state. And I came back home back in 2012 when I came back for health care at the Cleveland Clinic. Why not go anyplace else when you've got the best around? Came back here and I realized that my hometown had really deteriorated. So if you go to gloriacurtisformayor.com, you'll see my platform there. I spent 4 hard, long years looking at the city, driving around, and seeing where the problems were, because you cannot solve the problems until you know what they are. I identified the problems. More so than that, I took experiences that other cities had similar to ours. What worked for them, I put into my platform. So my ideas aren't necessarily new, but they're tried and they're working for other areas. I figure, why not put those together and bring them back home? And so I'm running for mayor because I think we haven't had a really good mayor since Lydia Reed. Call me biased, but I think she had some good ideas when she worked and got our regional transit up and running, started. And I think the problems that we have need someone who's creative. I am an inventor. I'm a very creative person, and look at my platform, you'll see that I've got the ideas I think the city needs to get going in the right direction. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim Thaker, and I am the current mayor of Mansfield. I was born and raised in Mansfield. Graduated from Mansfield Senior High School after attending Mansfield Christian School. The reason that I did not graduate from Mansfield Christian School is because they ran out of funding, and so I went back to the general school system. I met my wife at Bowling Green State University. We graduated. We came back to Mansfield. We raised 2 daughters who also graduated from Mansfield Senior High School. And we stayed here because this is my town. I love this town. I think we have done a lot of great work in the past 4 years. We've made this town a lot better. And we have continued, and we want to continue to do that. One of the things that we need to also work on is the communities. When I took office 4 years ago, the lights were turned out. We didn't have a parks division. Our police and fire departments were at one of the lowest levels they had been. And in those past 4 years, we have turned all of that around. We have turned the lights back on. We have increased the number of police officers. We have increased the number of firemen. We have purchased a lot of, over 16 vehicles for the police for their declining fleet. 3 new rescue squads. And we have 2 pumpers on order. We have done a lot in the past 4 years. And when I am reelected, we will continue to improve Mansfield.
Thank you very much. How about a nice round of applause? Very well. If you haven't done so already, please put your cell phones to silent. And if you have to take a call, please, you can go out to the foyer or outside to take that call. And I'm hoping that you can all see the timer table over there. Or you can use the podium. Can everyone hear in the back if they're seated at the table?
Could be louder.
So far, so good.
Could be louder,
I'm
you said?
comfortable sitting here.
They need it louder, please.
You need it louder?
Somebody asked for it to be louder. Thank you.
Okay. So we will use the podium. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is it coming through okay? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the predetermined questions. And the first question is, describe how the public can expect to work with your administration. And for this, we'll start with you, Ms. Burns.
Okay. I am very much a
Could you step
people-
up to the podium? Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Is this okay? All right. I am very much a people-oriented person. And I am very big on talking and communicating with people, with organizations, to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, I have already started work that I feel needs to be done. Whether I'm mayor or not, I'm still going to see this one pet project I have to reality. I've already started talking with Willa Lear out at RCT, because I think our transit system can be better. It can be better served by them for the residents. And I have already initiated communication with her. So in my idea as mayor, I would like to have community groups feel free to contact me, knowing that I'm a very people kind of person. Talk to me, let's communicate, let's get things going in the right direction. Because if you don't communicate, you're going to have gaps. People won't know for sure what it is that you're thinking. You need to know exactly what the problems are. So for me, I would like to be very approachable to people.
Thank you. Mr. Peak?
One of the things that I forgot to do is I wanted to thank NECIC for having this, not a debate, but the forum to meet the candidates. Because we need to talk about what the North End and what we will do to the North End and what we can do for NECIC. And the first question, I have always and will always continue to have an open door policy. You know, being mayor, I continue to get numerous calls all day long. And people stop in the office all the time, unannounced. Today I had a couple of individuals that actually came in and wanted to get some information from us. But a lot of these questions and phone calls are concerns and issues that they need to have addressed. And being mayor, I have worked and continue to work with those individuals continuously to make sure that we get resolved issues for them. And if I can't, I send them or work with them to get to a department that actually can help facilitate any issues that they have. It's something that, being the mayor, has to be done, and we do it. And we continue to do that. Sometimes I even have to refer the individual to an outside service, like Catholic Charities, or Area Agency on Aging, Richland Health Department, sometimes even NECIC. But you've got to service all of the people in the city of Mansfield, and I have an open door policy that I am proud of.
Thank you.
I'm a little taller than, can you hear me? Like I've already said, I've got 40 years experience in the public sector, and I learned very early in that life how important it is to be visible and engaged and give whomever the opportunity to raise questions and interact and so on. So some specifics that I would be interested in looking at. I'm not sure about the logistics of how much of this could be done, but one of the first things I would do would be look very closely at moving the mayor's office from the 9th floor or 8th floor or wherever it is down to the public floor of the city building, so that people didn't have to go through whatever kinds of challenges that it might take to get to the mayor's office. Another thing that I've always done, particularly when I was president of colleges, is I would hold periodic, either monthly or quarterly, started quarterly, I guess, and moved to monthly, what I call open forums. And there would be public sessions where I would say, I'll be here at a given time, whatever the time was, and I'll be there to meet and greet and interact with anybody who has any questions or comments that they want to share with me or my administration. Not only that, but I would bring my direct reports with me so that if there were questions or concerns that were raised, then we would assign a responsibility or indicate some in particular to respond to whatever that question or concern was. And another thing that I would do would be to continue the kind of work that I did when I was at North Central State in particular, and that was the engagement that I was committed to with the organizations in the community. Some of you have heard me say, I was involved in United Way, I was involved with the Chamber and REDEC, which was the Regional Economic Development, and Richland New Hope. I didn't just wait for people to come to me. I reached out and participated in these organizations, so I understood who was doing what work in the community. I got to know the people who ran those organizations and the people they serve, and it gave me a knowledge base to build on for the decision making that I was doing at that time at the college, and I would utilize that same approach as a decision maker for the city. Thank you.
Next spring, NECIC will celebrate our 5-year anniversary of a strategic plan that was developed here and that was presented to City Council and was adopted by the City of Mansfield, that looked at areas in the North End in regards to poverty, blight, workplace development, and workforce development. Look at my notes here. And the youth, of course, and the elderly. So the next question pertains to that plan. Who in your administration will be responsible for ensuring that the goals and strategies within the North End plan are being appropriately considered, supported, and implemented throughout the various departments And what will you do to ensure that the city department heads and supervisors are working towards the goals of that plan?
Mr. Speaker?
Bill, I have to commend you, that's a mouthful.
That's the largest question.
Okay.
We'll get through this and we'll be good.
Sam Dunn is going to be my liaison between NECIC and the city. And Sam, I'm sure, is back in the back corner. He's trying to hide a little bit. But Sam used to work for NECIC, and I think that is the most perfect fit for that liaison to be there. The city also has a consolidated community economic development plan that we have had to put together every single 5 years. Donnie Mitchell put the last one together 18 months ago before he retired. Sam has now inherited this, and Sam has been in the process of tweaking that economic plan, and that is for the whole citywide. And what we've had to do with that economic plan after it was designed and developed is to submit that plan to HUD. And then HUD, in turn, reviews it and approves it. Then on an annual basis, we have to generate reports from the city stating that the monies that was spent from CDBG, from HUD, from Mahome, from any other HUD money was put in place to fit into this plan. And then HUD comes back annually and will submit to us suggestions on changing that. I have instructed Sam to continue working with that and to also work with NECIC to make sure that both plans can work congruently together. Because if we can get the communities to work together to improve Mansfield, and we are improving Mansfield, that is the way that we want to make sure that happens. So Sam is going to be the liaison between NECIC and the city of Mansfield, and we got to work to make sure that both plans work together.
Thank you. Mr. Graber?
So the short answer to that is me. I will be responsible. Going into a little detail about that, first thing I would say is that, I've read this plan. I was really impressed. I've been reading plans like this for 30 of my 40 years in workforce. Used to write a lot of grants, used to write a lot of plans, and this has to be one of the top 10 that I've ever seen. It's well thought out, it's meaningful, it's doable, it's realistic, and I like it. And when I'm mayor, I look forward to working with NECIC and whomever else that needs to be at the table to update it and make sure it's fully incorporated with other interested bodies and so on. So I gave that simplistic answer of I would be responsible and directly, but I would also incorporate into the annual goals and objectives that would be set for the directors for the city, not just community development, but all of the directors. There would be an annual goal about what their role would be in interacting with and assuring the success of efforts such as this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
As mayor, I do not feel that one person has the do-it-all time to do every single job. For my administration, I would appoint someone that I would have him or her communicate with each agency, each community organization, and then have joint meetings with them to find out where their priorities are. Then report back to me. Now, I'm big on technology, so they would have to email me what their findings are. However, when it comes to the North End Collaborative, I would like to have a more intimate relationship with Kizzy Williams and with Colonel Howard on working with the organization, because this collaborative plan that Ron Abrams presented, waiving, hasn't been just published. It's been around for a while. It's been around since Don Culliver was in office, and I haven't seen not a darn thing done about it yet. So I'm going back to what my father used to always say: if you want it done right, do it yourself. In my mind, if I want someone to work with what I feel are the priorities, and I do say that the North End Collaborative is an important office, I do think that the Director of Economic Development deserves my priority, my time. Those two, I would make time for, to touch base with them on a regular basis as needed, so that we can kind of get this plan flowing. This plan has been sitting dead in the water. No paddle, no motor, it's just sitting there. Time out for that. I want something done about that. I'm the one who's going to take care of that. Now, making sure that things get done is a hotbed of contention with me. I'm a mother of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. And when I wanted things done in my household, I got everybody moving. That's what I would do as mayor, get everybody moving. I need to meet with him or her, because there needs to be some moving and shaking in this city government. It's been sitting dead for too long. There are people earning paychecks, not doing the job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are right now. This city isn't improving. That's why I decided to just get up off my hind end, dust myself off, and get in this mayor's race. I have never run for an office in my life. But I am so sick and tired of not seeing anything done that I'm willing to take 4 years of my hard-earned time to get the ball rolling, starting with the mayor's office, because I think we need to move and shake, starting with a pay cut for the mayor, because we've got a deficit looming, and I think that when you talk about getting things done, set the example. Mayor's office, 10% pay cut off of that, because we need to move and shake. Likewise, I'd like to have something else done that isn't being done. Put me in office, and you'll see results.
Thank you. Very good. Question number 3. Describe your plan for bringing additional financial resources available to small cities to address housing, unemployment, health and safety, public infrastructure and transit, and community spaces and land use. Mr. Abrams, your turn to go first.
Thank you. I think the first thing I would do is I would create a new office or a new function within the mayor's office, and that would be one of grant development and management. It would include coordination. You know, I think there's a lot of good isolated or incidental activities going on within state government, like within courts or other particular areas where people are seeking grants on behalf of the city and so on. But there's very little support by the mayor's office on a broad-based approach, and I don't see any effort where there's somebody out there who has the responsibility to be checking the Federal Register and other documents on a regular basis to see what kinds of grants and other opportunities are out there that cities can go after. And then once you do that, and again within the current structure, I don't see that there's any centralized support from the mayor or other parts of city government that supports the acquisition of grants or the management of the grants once they've been acquired. And so it seems to me that the first and most productive thing that could be done would be to create such a function or office, put an experienced person in there, and help support all of that kind of activity that's going on throughout the city government and its various departments to best utilize the opportunities out there, take advantage of them, and to capitalize on that. And not only to capitalize on it, but to leverage those resources so you could also bring in private dollars and sources otherwise not necessarily thought about on behalf of the city to support and relieve, actually not only to support, but to relieve the pressure on taxpayer dollars to do that work.
Thank you.
One thing that I'm very proud of is the city employees that we have. The employees that we have working are very competent, and they do a great job. And one of those is, again, like I said earlier, Sam. I'm going to answer the question as opposed to skirt and go around other issues. The question was that what can we do to bring more to it, the city? We have been able to leverage CDBG money and maximize the amount of money that the city of Mansfield gets. But that's not the whole thing, because everybody in the city, including Sam, has continually and does continually go after grants. We were able to get the Moving Ohio Forward grant, the hardest hit fund. We were working with the land bank to get that. We've got NIP funds that we've been able to secure. Over the past couple of years, we have been able to get some brownfield funds to clean up the old foundry site on North Main. We continue to work with the Ohio EPA and the US EPA to clean up hazardous sites. One couple of them in particular is the Cedar Road site that had over 9,000 fluorescent bulbs and over 3,000 tires. That was cleaned up by the US EPA at no cost to the city. We worked with the Ohio EPA to clean up Simpson. That was a contaminated area. And we have used the funds that we have been able to go after and grants to tear down over 375 blighted structures. We need to continue to clean up the neighborhoods, and my pledge is to do just that.
Ms. Curtis, did you answer that question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm confused. That happens quite a bit. Yes, thank you. For those who just came in recently, the 3x5 cards are to write down your own question, and Kizzy will go around and collect those. Does anyone have a question ready for her at this time? Just hold your card up. She'll be glad to collect that. We'll address those questions later on in the program. Thank you.
I'm sorry. So Ms. Gloria, you didn't answer. You didn't answer that question.
Oh, is that,
Community space and land use?
oh, number 3? Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more?
I haven't had enough of this power right in my mind.
Well, I'm not doing my job either, Ms. Curtis, so I'll try to get that.
Now, my plan for making sure that we utilize grants that are available and addressing problems with infrastructure, I would like to have that delegated to, under my administration, a Mansfield Chamber of Commerce. Because I feel that when we lost the name of Mansfield in the Chamber of Commerce, we lost a lot more than just the name. In 1975, we had the Mansfield City Chamber of Commerce. And in 2012, that went from the Mansfield Richland Chamber of Commerce to the Richland Area Chamber of Commerce. And when that happened in 2012, I think everything that's relevant and meaning to Mansfield went out the window. I would reestablish the Mansfield City Chamber of Commerce. Under that, I would like to have housed a professional grant writer. Him or her is well versed in how to write grants. They know how to find them, and they are in strict adherence to the deadlines, which is very important. I would like to see us work together as a community. If someone finds a grant, and young people are notorious for being online, searching for things, bring it to the chamber's attention. because we need to make sure that everything we can do, everything we can find, a grant, a private donor, is utilized, bring it to the attention of the Mansfield City Chamber of Commerce, which we do not have, and I would like to bring back once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if I get back on track here and count by threes. Question number 4. Will you be open to exploring best practices in other cities that have had beneficial partnerships between community development corporations, such as NECIC, and local city government to address senior and affordable housing options in low-income areas? Ms. Curtis, we'll let you go first so I don't forget you.
Okay, so I don't forget. I am the kind of person, I am a inventor. I am a creative thinker. I think that you don't always have to create something new. You can use something that's already been tried and true. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. For me, I think the problem is always best solved by those that are wrapped in the problem. So if we want someone to find solutions for certain problems in our community, start looking within that community that is affected. That's always been why I've created things, why I am an inventor. I think that somewhere in the city of Mansfield, I'm not the only one with great ideas of how to fix things. There are other people, just like myself, who we think about the problems. We have our own ideas why it can work. We have built a whole time frame devoted to what's going to fix that problem. I want to hear about that. I am the kind of person, I'm open to other suggestions on how to fix our city. So I think part of the problem is we have got to work on revitalizing what hasn't been used. When I see dilapidated houses, I don't see blighted houses, I see opportunity. Because I look at those and my mind just starts going. I think of the things we can use out of one house to rehab another house. I think that the key to fixing our problems with low-income housing is to use what we've already got and rehab those so that they are going to be usable for our senior citizens and for our low-income people.
Thank you.
Mansfield is an aging community. Affordable senior housing is a definite need for us and where we are progressing. My vision is to work with the land bank in being able to put together some properties, tear them down, make sure that they are blighted houses, and then use that property to possibly build a senior citizens low-income project. I know that a few years back, NECIC had an idea to do that over by Johns Park. I think that's an excellent idea. And there's a lot of properties over in that area that are in foreclosure and that are dilapidated to the point where they're not savable. And that can be done through the land bank and partnering with the city of Mansfield and the land bank, using the city demolition funds and the land bank demolition funds to do that. Then we'd have to come up with some type of funding to build this complex or this project. And I know that Colonel Howard has one of his dreams, and I think that it's a dream that eventually will come true.
Thank you. Mr. Abrams?
So I guess I'll start out by same way the mayor did and say I'll answer the question. I guess he suggested or implied that I didn't ask or answer the last question. When the question was how would you go about bringing in and identifying new funds, and I talked about that. All he talked about was what they've done over the last few years. So when it comes to this question, I think the issue is really similar in that we're talking about best practices. You know, one of the things I've learned from my commitment and my work in public life is professional development is exceedingly important. I had the fortune of working in 5 different states and 5 different systems, 5 different approaches to how things are done. And you learn different ways of doing things when you do that. You see different philosophies about how we can get to common ends. One of the things that I've understood in my pursuit of this office is that because of some of the issues that have taken place, and including financial for the city, there's been very little money for professional development employees. There's been no support of employees going to meetings, conferences, conventions, where they have the opportunity to interact with their counterparts, their colleagues, other professionals in their same areas. And there's very little idea sharing because of that. So one of the things I would look very closely at is building an expectation and an opportunity for professional development where the expectation would be employees would go to conferences and professional development activities so they could learn about what was going on elsewhere. Get ideas from other folks, rub shoulders with people who were doing good and different things, and bring that back to Mansfield and talk about how we could do some of those kinds of things in this community. What are the good parts, what are the weak parts of those kinds of ideas, and how can you make them function here? Huge opportunity that's missed, and it's a huge way to help make employees satisfied with their job when they have the opportunity to grow in their job. Thank you.
Okay, we're down to the last predetermined question, and last year a group did a study on the north end and determined that we are what is deemed a food desert by the USDA, and that means there isn't access to local fresh produce. As North End resident, you know, we had Ritchie's Market, which we lost last year to a couple of dollar stores that serve, you know, quick and easy processed food, junk food, basically. So the next question refers to an important issue of access to healthy food. And the question is, what are your thoughts on the North End being designated as a local fresh food desert by the USDA, and how will you address access to healthy foods in low-income neighborhoods like the North End and others? Mr. Deaker?
Okay. Healthy living should be a priority of every single person. We should all live a healthy life. I know I don't sometimes, because if you can notice, it's definitely not healthy sometimes. I have to commend NECIC for taking the lead in making their community, this area, a priority for healthy living, and putting out gardens. And the one that was Thursday when we had the ribbon cutting over the Garden of Learning, that to me is an extremely impressive movement forward. That's taking planning and going forward with it. And what we need to do is that there are other gardens in this community that they are working on. And we need to partner with the city of Mansfield to just grow that. I know Colonel Howard and I talked about that earlier. And his vision is to grow as many gardens in this area. I think it would behoove everybody. And it would benefit all of the people here. And I support wholeheartedly that movement of gardens and fresh produce.
Mr. Abrams? You know, I think the approach that I would take to this is the expectation that when that designation was first being realized, that we had a neighborhood, a large community within our city that was designated as a food desert, I would have taken that as a mayor as a wake-up call. Say, what can the city be doing to address this issue, to make sure that all of our citizens have the opportunity for fresh food, access to minimize health concerns and so on, as opposed to just, supporting a local neighborhood organization and their effort to do that. Don't get me wrong, I think the fact that NECIC did this is great. It's phenomenal. And the work that they've done, many of you know that, I spent a lot of years working in the greenhouse, and part of what I'm all about is growth and growing plants and all that kind of stuff. And so this, the fact that the garden is going on and the work that they've been able to do there is phenomenal. It just seems to me that we could be that much further down the road if the city were also bringing resources and attention to the issue. Just gardens isn't enough. What's the thinking about, what's the work being done to bring grocery stores and supermarkets back into the community, where fresh foods in the winter are available to folks? I don't hear anybody talking about that. So, the bottom line is, I would take direct role in leading efforts to address all the needs of all of the neighborhoods and communities that have challenges, because it's important that we all work together, utilize the good work that these various organizations are doing, recognize that there are other organizations that are able to support and help that work, and if we all work together, we can get a lot more accomplished.
Thank you.
Well, I tend to see things, I see the brighter side of some of the problems. Yes, the North End is considered a food desert, but unlike some cities of New York and some parts of Chicago, we have an advantage here in Mansfield. We have the regional transit system. That has given 800 to 1,000 people from Bowman and Harker and Spring Mill Streets access to food, shopping that they otherwise would not have. Our bus services 22,000 people on the average every single month. So that shows that people are using the transit system to go to Lexington, to the Kroger's, to go to the Mansfield Walmart out by 71, to go to the Kroger's on Park Avenue West. They are going there through those feeder routes. I would like to see more of that until we can put in place another food structure. Personally, I like the top of Ashland Hill. Used to be way back when with a big bear. On the right side, you go up the hill and you get to the top of the Ashland Hill, and on the right side was Big Bear. I would love to see that as another food source. As Mr. Abrams said, what about wintertime? Gardens are great. I'm an avid gardener, and I've been out in my garden just picking tomatoes and all kinds of things. But come winter, I don't have access to that, neither does anybody else. So we need to start looking at avenues to get people to fresh foods more often. $50 a month. The average person can afford $50 a month for a monthly pass. You can go anywhere you want on the bus system. They would love to have more riders. That gives us avenues to fresh food, Walmart or Kroger's. I would like to say that more is better, but sometimes more isn't always better. I'm not an advocate for putting stores in the neighborhood, because when I see that, I see more traffic, and I don't want any of our children to be prey to a traffic accident. I think we need to get with a city planner, and let's find out where can we put another food source. We're a small city. We don't need to go to Ontario. We have enough here in Mansfield to utilize, and our bus service makes it affordable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause for getting Did I collect up the written questions at this time? Thank you. Very good. You have this for me? Or you got it? Okay, we'll do like last time. Very good.
So,
Thank you.
okay, for this question is for Mayor Thaker. I understand you recently submitted your budget and it isn't balanced. Is that true? Also, if so, isn't there a state statute that requires all budgets that are submitted be balanced.
This process is the same process we do every single year. We've been doing this process for the past 3 years. When the individuals in the different departments submit their budget, it's their wish list. We continue to look at that. That is always, it is always over budget. Then after we get everybody's wish list and we kind of go through it, that's when the negotiations start and we come back through. And you are absolutely right, it has to be balanced. And we do this for the past, we've done this for the past 3 years, and it will be done again for this year. The budget will be balanced by the end of, or when it's supposed to be balanced.
What is the plan for OC Hill Neighborhood Center? What is going to be created for our youth, or for our teens, to give them safe places to develop and stay away from harm?
Is that for all 3 candidates?
It does not specify one.
Let's have, yes. Mr. Abrams, you want to take first shot at that?
So, I guess the first thing I would do would be to engage with Youth and Family Council. You know, they're designated as an organization that's focused on youth. And through that, I would identify all of the various programs and resources that are in existence now, who supports them, where the holes are, where the gaps are, where we're doing a good job or we're not doing such a good job. And I think that we've seen over the last 3-4 years there has been a decline in a lot of those programs, and we probably aren't where we were back when you saw a lot of activity at OC Hill or Friendly House and those kinds of things. They're all important. I think we need more latchkey programs. We need to be providing remediation and support programs for our youth after school programs so that we can support their development of their reading and writing skills and do it in ways where they get to engage and develop social skills and all those kinds of things. But, you know, we have the Pride Tax created a good revenue stream for Parks and Recreation. It seems to me that part of that recreation piece of that work, and that's bringing, you know, I don't know, it's brought in over $1 million over the last couple of years in terms of the funding stream for Parks and Recreation. More of that money, seems to me, should be going towards the recreation side, and you build that educational and social development component into that. And I don't think that's a source that's been tapped very effectively to make sure that we have those programs and that we're bringing all of the community efforts together in a coordinated way to get the maximum use out of them.
Thank you.
Again, I'm going to say that I think differently than the other two. Everything can't be hinged upon a grant or community resources. Some of it just takes good, hard entrepreneurship, private investors, inviting companies in. I like Scene 75 in Cincinnati. It is a fantastic place for young people, for young families, for us old folk to go there and shoot pool. And it is like a Dave & Buster's. I would invite a investor to come in and use up some of our space. I like going out Park Avenue West next to Value City Furniture. I can see Scene 75 sitting there right there. Ample parking. I don't want to put everything off on a grant, and I don't want to put everything off on the community. Sometimes the mayor's got to take the initiative to go out there and just find the money and invite the people in, and I think I'm that kind of person. I'm very aggressive, and I don't take no for an answer.
Thank you.
Darren, thanks for asking this question.
You're welcome.
You know, OC Hill, we used to have, there used to be programs at OC Hill for the kids. And what we have found over time is that there were programs, but there's only a certain pot of money. And that money, when it's divided up among different organizations, makes it less effective, less efficient. UMADOC did some programs, some of the same programs that OC Hill did. And in looking and stressing that we emphasize the kids and getting the most bang for your buck, we have transitioned those programs over to UNIDOC. And so that they can take that money and capitalize on it. OC Hill originally was set up to be a community center and an activity center. And what we want to do is make it back, repurpose it back to a community center and an activity center. An activity center so that in the evenings there's volleyball, there's basketball, there's ping pong, there's activities for the kids to do in that area. And a community center so that when people want to have meetings, minority health care, that is available so that we can use it as a community center. So that's what the purpose and that's what we are trying to do with OC Hill.
Thank you.
Okay, this is for all candidates. How do you plan to diversify and help Mansfield, to grow more culturally aware, seeing as though the city houses two college campuses with students of all demographics?
Would you read that one more time, please?
How do you plan to diversify and/or help Mansfield to grow more culturally aware, seeing as though the city houses two college campuses with students of all demographics?
I'll start that one. I know something about those colleges. You know, the advantage and the real opportunity that this brings, and in some ways it goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about professional development, the fact that I lived and worked in 5 different states. You know, the fact of the matter is that those colleges are becoming more residential and they're attracting more and more students from outside of Mansfield and outside of Richland County. And that is nothing but a good thing. It brings people here that have different views of the world, have different sets of experiences from different communities and even different states and different countries. And we have, and the students that live here have the opportunity to interact with those folks they had never had before. And the best way that I know to diversify and better figure that stuff out is through socialization. And that's what's happening. So to the extent that that's going on, it's good. To the extent that we can increase it and support it is even better. There's talk about what we can be doing. In fact, you know, we did a thing with the News Journal yesterday that was streamed, and it will be out, an article in Sunday's paper. But one of the questions was about how can we connect what's going on at the campuses with downtown so that we can bring those people. You know, one of the challenges we face today is that a lot of those folks are going home on weekends because they want to go home and they can, particularly if they're going back to Cleveland or whatever. And in part they're doing that is because they don't see enough activity for the young folks downtown. Or even though it might be there, and I think there's a growing amount of it, they have a hard time getting to it because of lack of transportation and scheduling and some of those kinds of things. So we have the seeds of some very good things going on there, and I think it's mostly a matter of enhancing and supporting that in ways and saying that it's one of the priorities of city government is that we recognize and celebrate all the diversity that exists within the community and how it can be enhanced and supported and grow.
Again, OC Hill is a great place. The Friendly House and the Salvation Army are great for inner city youth. However, we're talking about blending people from the campus communities into our downtown and incorporate them into our city. I think we've got to reach a little bit harder, farther, bigger, better thoughts. Scene 75, bringing in something that's going to draw those college kids. And I still remember being a college kid, and I remember wanting to do things and how far I had to travel to kind of do those things, because I went to a small liberal arts college in Ohio. And I think we've got to think of including those college kids into our programming. Whenever we think of growing and developing, we've got to consider them because they are a part of our community. At least I think that they are. I want them to patronize our city. I want them to come and shop in our city. I want them to come and relax and enjoy themselves in our city. We've got to think beyond the community development area, and we've got to look at these as future residents. I'd like some of them to stay right here in Mansfield. And if we give them the seeds of opportunity, they will come and they'll stay here with us long after they've graduated.
Thank you.
Diversity is an issue, not just at the campus. Diversity is an issue for this whole area, for Mansfield. Look at all of us here. Look at all of the people and the diverse individuals that we have here. We need to accept that. We need to look at everybody, and we need to try to understand what everybody and how they work and how they react. I know this summer we had Men Mansfield, and Men Mansfield was a group of individuals that Dr. Williams put together, and I was very proud to be part of that, because that led a lot of marching, a lot of diverse activities that we need to embrace. And one of the things that we had at one of the meetings was we have to learn what everybody's ideals are, everybody's culture is, everybody's thoughts. Because until we do that, we are still fragmented. We need to be a diverse area. We have to accept that we are from a diverse city. And we need to grow, and we need to listen to each other, and we need to learn everybody's cultures. So it's not just at the campus. It's the whole area that we need to do. Because once we do and accept that, that's when this city is even going to grow faster and greater. I have hired 2 individuals, and both of those individuals are minorities. And we just promoted an individual that was a minority. So I feel that that's my opportunity, because everybody has something to offer to the city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should I do it? Okay. Public art contributes to a community's resilience by connecting us to each other, connecting us to nature, to our history, both positive and negative, and by connecting us to the unique attributes of a city. There is a growing public art movement taking place in Mansfield, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this medium, being part of Mansfield's resurgence, and how you will support this movement.
Is that for all 3 candidates? Ms. Curtis, would you like to go please?
Well, I will say that I am not familiar with the emergence of that public art, but I do support that. My oldest is an artist type person in Chicago, and I have to support it because of the way that my daughter thinks about art. I think that there's a medium for it. I would like to see us use that to do something different here in the city. I'm into sculptures, and I would love to see a good artistic sculpture pop up around our downtown area going to Park Avenue West. I'd like to see some examples from those artistic type people. What can they do to enhance the curb appeal of our city? Not just in the downtown area, but in other places.
Thank you.
You know, a couple of months ago, there was a art fair downtown Mansfield, and it was very successful. And the thing that I think that is very helpful is, you know, we've got to look at where we are in the city of Mansfield. 97% of the storefronts according to downtown Mansfield, are populated. And if you happen to notice, few of those generate art. And one of them in particular is the New Hope Art Center that is at the corner of Main and 4th. And that is something that is it's inspiring. And I think that we need to continue to capitalize on the arts around Mansfield. The Art Center is a great place to go visit. They do an awful lot of different types of they bring artists in and they continue to do things up there. I think that that could be one of the things that Mansfield can capitalize on, because we do have an awful lot of artists in this area.
Thank you.
So when I asked downtown Mansfield what the storefront occupancy was, they told me it was about 80%. I think there's some difference going on there, but my wife and I have always been supporters of arts organizations. You can go to any of the organizations in town and see where we've been supporting those organizations for years. And it seems to me that there are growing opportunities for emerging art opportunities. You know, the public art is one. You know, there's work going on with murals. There's a young man in town that's interested in doing some murals, and he's garnering the resources and the staffing, the help to bring that about. You know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a debut of a documentary film about the emergence of public art, the flood wall in particular in Portsmouth, Ohio. And you know, we went. It was at the Renaissance. The folks who made the film were there. It was a great opportunity to see the kinds of interest and who the individuals within the community are that are behind that kind of movement. And it seems like I didn't see anybody from the city there. I didn't see anybody from some other organizations that you would have thought would be there, were not there. And you know, those kinds of movements can start, but they don't get nurtured, they don't grow without support and visibility from the leadership of the community. And I think you have to support and enhance that.
This one, I'm thinking is for the mayor. In order to combat some of the worst areas of crime, would it be feasible to offer a $20,000 bonus per year, for example, to a police officer if they would live smack dab in the middle of that neighborhood to get it cleaned up?
I don't know, where do you sign up?
It was asked and approved, so.
That was, I commend the police officers of Mansfield. They have a job that I personally would not want. I've ridden with them and have seen the things that they go through. There's all kinds of ideas. There's all kinds of things that could possibly happen. To actually offer $20,000 for somebody to live in a community or that may or may not be an incentive. I don't know. I do know that over the past 4 years we have increased the number of police officers, and we have given them their tools to work because they needed those tools. And we have purchased vehicles, and we have continued to work with them. And I think that they do an excellent job.
Thank you.
I have two for Mrs. Curtis, and they go together. As an average citizen, I can drive to Kroger. What do you plan to do about the transit system running not so very often until 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and not running on weekends? So 5.
Well, I have begun developing a somewhat close relationship with the RCT. and I can talk with them. I can get that person's route, their address, and see what I can get done with getting a route for the weekends. Now, they have feeder routes that are Bowman Street and our Spring Mill. Perhaps if there's enough ridership, perhaps that person can have a feeder route. But that's a problem for RTC or RCT to resolve. But I gladly talk.
Okay. This is a question for all candidates. How strongly do you support or will you support our safety forces?
I'll go first. First of all, like I said earlier, when I took office, our safety forces, the numbers of our safety forces were at one of the lowest levels they've ever been. We have increased the number of firefighters. We have increased the number of police officers. My pledge is to increase their numbers as the budget allows, because we definitely need to make the city safer. We have purchased vehicles needed for them and given them their tools. Like I said earlier, we've purchased over 16 vehicles for the police department, 3 rescue squads, and 2 pumpers that are going to be delivered. So I am extremely supportive of our safety forces, because that is one of the key issues to keep this city and the citizens of Mansfield feeling safe at home. You know, one of the things that I have found over the time of being mayor is when people call in, one of the highest priorities of individuals is that they want to feel safe. And so that's why we've got to make sure that we continue to support, and the community supports, our police and fire.
Thank you. So I don't want to undermine the importance of police and fire. They're hugely important. But when I think of safety, I think of something a little bigger and a little more broad-based than just policemen and firemen. Now, I've heard the mayor say a lot of times now he's hired more policemen and he's hired more firemen. I've not heard any talk about what's the plan, what's the vision to deal with making things more safe. You know, are these policemen going into community policing, or are they going into programs to help kids better socialize? Are they going into programs that support some of the underlying causes of some of the problems, the crime problems we have, the drug issues or whatever? I don't hear any of that kind of conversation. So you could put all the police in the world on the streets, and if they don't have a vision and a goal, not a whole lot is going to change, other than you just lock more people up. And who's paying for that? Taxpayers. Same with fire people. Great. And one observation I would make that went back a little bit earlier in terms of the statement. A significant number of city employees don't live in the city. Now, it used to be that cities could get away with that, and somewhere along the line, Supreme Court or somebody threw out the laws or regulations that the city or municipality could require people to live within a community. So that's changed. So I don't know whether you can do a whole lot about that, but it seems to me that you can set a tone and set of expectations, and again, it comes back to this whole notion of the bigger picture of what it means to be a safe community. What's the vision? What's the plan for what that ought to look like? Thank you.
I'm going to reiterate something the mayor said. He says, as funds are available. On my platform, I talk about my transportation hub. That's the foundation of my platform. So check out glorycurtisformayor.com, click the button that says my platform, and look at it. That platform is a foundation for making funds available for police and safety. Because if I'm mayor, we'll not cut police and safety. I'd like more police cars to go through my neighborhood so that the drug dealer across the street wants to move, because I'd like to get them evicted. because there's not enough money in our budget right now to make that reality. We have to go on as funds are available. Well, my platform talks about how I'm going to make funds available through my transportation hub, getting people back to work, paying income tax, which comes back into our pocket. This year, we've got to raise, according to the state auditor's office, $3.3 million in income tax in order for us to keep the guidelines for that exit from financial emergency. And I don't see that that's being done. So I'm looking for a way to make sure we have funds available for police and safety, not just for my house, but for yours as well.
Thank you.
This doesn't specify. It says, I wondered why Mrs. Curtis isn't included in the debate next week. At least she isn't on the flyer.
Yeah, go ahead and address that.
Correction, they did include me in the debate. Thanks to all of you who did click the webpage and contacted their advertisers on the call to action button, they got the message. They finally issued me a letter and invited me to the debate, so topic closed.
Well, I think this is the last question, and it's for Miss Gloria. So, where do you live in Mansfield, and for how long have you lived there?
Okay, I am a resident. Haven't worked out of Mansfield. I do house repair. I like fixing things, house repair. I have been back here since 2012, and I live here, but I'm not going to give out my address to let the strange folk know where I live at. I am a little bit of a private person, but I am a resident. That's why I am a write-in candidate, because I came back here originally in 2012, but when a friend of mine wanted to go out west for about a year to South Dakota, asked me to watch his house. I said, sure. So, like most people who have to work for a living, work out of town a little bit, come back home, work out of town. So, I considered myself a resident once again in August 4th to be exact, because I get to live with myself. I can't tell a lie on paper and then say, well, I was a resident in March. I knew full well I considered myself a resident in August. If I would have filed before then, that would not have been honest on my part, and I can't start working for other people if I'm a lie. So, I am a resident as of August of last year, again.
Thank you.
Was there any more audience questions? Give us 1 second.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
okay.
We're done with questions, so.
Does he have something he would like to ask?
Yeah, well, you can ask your question, Kate.
Well, it was something that was mentioned about some funds earlier that Ms. Curtis said, and I think it was in reference to the mayor, about some money that would go into for, she said, money as you get it, but also utilizing the monies that we have that come into the city to address economic development, because I haven't heard anything about real economic development and creating jobs. In particular for our teenagers, which in Mansfield, for African American population, about 65% of them do not have jobs. And it was a statement made by Ms. Curtis that we don't need a grocery store in the North End. I don't understand that, because to me that would create jobs and opportunities. And the bus does not run late enough for many of our young people to get access to jobs that might be in Ontario, where most of the jobs are, to be able to get back home safely as well. And we know that there's a transportation issue on the North End as far as automobiles. How could that be addressed in this whole scenario of economic development, transportation, and safety for our young people as well? That's for all three of you.
Well, first of all, we have been working with economic development. I have an economic development manager, Tim Bowersock, and we continually meet with businesses. We need to grow the downtown area. Statistics says that 85% of growth inside of a community is within that community. 85% is within that community. 15% is when you bring businesses in from outside. We are looking at bringing businesses in. There are a couple businesses that we are trying to bring into the city of Mansfield. We can't say who they are exactly because we've had to sign some non-disclosure agreements with them so that we can move forward with that. You are right, there needs to be some type of transportation for these individuals to get to jobs. There are jobs out there. I think that Mr. Abrams has said, and I agree, that there needs to be the matching of skill sets. Skill sets between those jobs that are available and the skills that are needed. That needs to be done with education. That needs to be done locally. And I think that NCTC and North Central State College, Ohio State University, the Urban Center, Pioneer, Mansfield Senior Vocational School, also Madison Vocational School, there has been groups meeting to determine what skill sets are out there, then what we need to get are the skill sets needed, and then we need to get those kids and individuals trained for those jobs.
Thank you.
Now, let me address specifically, you said that there are not buses running late enough? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You give me your location that you're talking about.
All
And-
city.
All city.
Okay, because I will, tomorrow, in fact, I have a meeting on Friday. I will talk with the woman down at RCT, and I'll tell her that they are not running long enough in the evenings, because she's concerned about people using the transportation to get to their jobs. She's talked about getting jobs in Ontario and out to the Mansfield Walmart out off Possum Run. I will relay that to her, and I'll make sure that it gets in the paper. Check my website, GloriaCurtisForMayor.com, and I will put her response in there. Again, you said that I was not pro putting a grocery store on the north end. I'm not for putting it in the middle of a neighborhood. On the north end, yes, but that takes some planning. We've got to look at where we're gonna put one. We have to invite a company to come in and look at the location. I am pro putting one there, just not any place. It has to be strategically placed.
Thank you.
So, I think my years as a leader, as a CEO, has put me kind of in a habit or a mind frame of when questions like this come up. I try to look at the big picture. And Garen, in your question, you raised issues that are important, but they're elements. The big picture is about growth, creating living wage jobs for the young folks in this community so that they've got a future, they have some hope, so that they can, that they can feel good about living here, raising a family here, working here, hopefully even retiring here. So it's not about just economic development. I look at it broader than that. Elements of growth, economic development, workforce development, what are infrastructure issues and some of those kinds of things, which gets to the blight and to safety and all those kinds of things. The number one thing, and it's not just because I spent 40 years in education, the number one thing is we can't grow, we can't support growth of existing businesses, and we really struggle to attract new businesses when we can't provide the skilled workforce that they need. We make this a community where people want to live and work and raise their families, and we have talented, we've got a lot of talent in this community. We've got a lot of undeveloped resources. We need to focus on that, keep our young folks here. Then, over time, this becomes a destination. People want to be here. It builds momentum, it builds pride, it builds hope. Employers will come here because that's where the young people want to be and to work. That's when you see people addressing the concerns that you raised. That's when you see those unemployment rates going down. We're not focused on that. We're not focused on the big picture. Yeah, the mayor references the economic development person, and I've known Tim Bowerstock for years. He has no budget. He doesn't do any marketing. I don't know how you do economic development in that kind of a vacuum. It goes back to priorities. What are our priorities? Economic development for what? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank the three of you for participating this evening. Very much appreciated. Thank you all for attending. And there's a notation at the top of the agenda. Next meeting of the Citizen Action Sector is canceled in November. We'll be holding that again in December. And again, thank you all for calling. Michael, that's enough.
No, this is a general announcement. Thank you all for coming tonight. Please make sure that you sign in, take some refreshments with you on your way out. Thank you again on behalf of NECIC. I want to thank all the candidates for coming and speaking and being open and honest. And in some cases vulnerable to questions. It's important to get this information out. It's important for us all to talk about these things, to state our position. Many of us have addresses that are not in the city of Mansfield, but what happens in this city affects this entire community. So it's going to be really important for all of us to go out there and talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your classmates. Anybody that is registered to vote, it's important that they get out and vote. Vote their conscience, vote their party, just get out and vote. That is the way that we as a community can make all of our voices heard. So I would encourage all of you to go out there and make sure that you talk about the importance of voting and what's out there, what's at stake. So again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. Did you have something?
I have something. If I can finish.
As Kenny's swallowing.
Yes. Well, yes, everyone get out and vote, and thank you all so much for coming. God bless. I'm glad for everyone that came, but I'm glad it's over. And thank you to Bill Baker for moderating, and to Colonel Howard and all of NECIC staff. Thank you, guys.